You know, most people would never expect this video. In fact, I myself, expect this video. But I was approached with some unorthodox requests, and then I was given some money to buy this deck, and I was like, you know what, fine. I'll just talk about it. But that actually is a complete lie. I wasn't given money for it. I went out to get this myself, and that's because I actually believe in this deck quite a fair bit in today's society. Why do I think Dragheart Luard has what it takes to stay relevant in 2025? I hope to share with you my logic in the next few minutes. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mr. here. Today I am back to talk about Dragheart Luard, or just Luard, Driver Luard, Strider Luard, whatever you believe in, it's just Luard. Now, the thing about this deck is that, 90% of the people who play this deck, believe that they're the best on earth. They believe that, they're gifted everything they do, and they may be, but, it's very difficult to talk about this deck without a personality issue, or like an ego issue, or just fear of 2020, because, everyone remembers V Luard 2020, or everyone remembers G Luard in 2017, 2018. So, generally speaking, when it comes to talk about this deck, there's either a lot of emotions or a lot of ego, and it's just very unpleasant, which is probably why I've avoided talking about this deck for years on end, right? But today, I'm going to throw my head into this long discussed ring, and I'm going to talk about my thoughts about Luard on Standard today. Now, of course, just to preface, Luard in Standard right now, there is a lot of ways to, play this deck. There's Stall Luard, there's Hostage Luard, there's, Driver Loop, there's, the one that plays the Order, this guy, there is a lot of ways to play Luard. I've tested a lot of them, but this is a version of Luard I'm personally a big fan of, and you all may get that either through the thumbnail or because previously in Nightrose, I've previously advocated playing the Batsuka, the Overflyer, which I will throw all the links in the description below in case you are lost on that reference. But the main point you have to know for this video, why I'm doing this video, is because I believe Luard has not only the strengths of a strike deck set, which is, being able to play for a longer game, having great scaling, having great burst potential later down the line, but also can use a very dynamic grade 2 toolbox to be able to grade 2 game. Again, I would have alluded to this in the toolbox, in the thumbnail, but cards like Dara, cards like, I dare say, the main, I think are really good. But, you have to pace your counterblast, you have to really know how to play it out, and you have to decide when to use it, when not to use it, and I actually think it's really good, in my personal opinion. So, we're going to talk about this list. Again, everything I say in this video is my own opinion, because I know Luard players have very different opinions about very different things. So, if you disagree with this list, if you disagree with the premise, if you disagree with me, that's completely fine. Okay, in this case, it's completely fine. Just please be respectful in the comments. That's all I ask. Okay, the right deck is very simple. It's literally just the Luard right deck. There is no joke. This is just it. The grade 0, you need to play Root, because that's just how it works. The grade 1 is knees gets you the crest. You don't really need to know what the crest does, but the crest is basically a regular strike deck set crest. 5k to the front row, very face out card in G zone, which Driver Luard abuses pretty well. And then, of course, the last skill is that if you strike without paying the cost, you can send a critical trigger from your deck to the bottom of the deck at the end of the turn. Basically ensures that as the game progresses, your critical rate goes up and the number of normal units in your deck goes down. So with that out of the way, generally speaking, you will be able to sack your opponents no matter what. Why did they print this on the crest and give Nightrose such a bad crest? I don't know. I honestly can't tell you. The grade 2 is Leafall. Leafall, when ruled upon by a Luard, use roll last one and draw one. And then obviously a card use Soul Blast is himself, because he has a drop zone skill, which is where Ritual 3, when your grade 4 unit is placed on the Vanguard circle, you can discard a card from your hand and call this card to the Vanguard circle. Why this matters is all for the sake of the original, all for the sake of revenge. Dragheart Luard, Ritual 3 at the start of your right phase. If you have Ritual 3, you can send 2 Shadow Paladin normal units back to the bottom of the deck, and then if you do, you can strike out paying the cost. Surprise! That's why it's good. The second skill is you counterblast 1. Choose one of your guys to retire it. When your G unit strikes, you can pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for two grade 1 or lower units and quarter to different rearguard circles and shuffle the deck. Idea is obviously that you retire the Leafall, which basically 100% guarantees that you always will get the strike skill, because that's how strike deck sets are designed, is that they're trying to ensure that the older bosses can always get the effects off, right? The thing is that when it comes to Leafall, he is kind of costly because he's a net 0. So in this list, I will just tell you first, we do play Maple. Now, Maple is a free revive every time you place a card in your Vanguard circle that is specifically grade 3 or greater, so generally strikes also count as well. But the thing is that for Maple, Luard players are kind of torn on it. They either play 0 copies of it or upwards to 3 or 4. I think 2 is a sweet spot because you actually dig this deck fast enough, but you still need to open 1 in circulation. Absolutely. Maple really gives you so much advantage over the game, it's insane. So I would still recommend you play her at least 2, but I know Luard players that can even play her up to 4 and have no qualms about it. So I think this is completely up to you. But that's generally all I need to tell you when it comes to the Vanguard. The G-Zone is going to be pretty simple. I need to cover the G-Zone first because if not, no one will understand. Obviously, the Luard crest is still sitting in his G-Zone. I already covered it just now. So if you missed it, please just scroll backwards. I promise you, you won't miss out a lot. Obviously, it's very simple. It's just 4 Drag Strider Luard and Drag Driver Luard. Driver Luard is obviously the first strike. For those of you who remember your 2017 anime, surprise, there you go. He's very simple. He's a very simple boss. He's just when he attacks Ritual 3 CB1, flip 1 card your G-Zone face up, search your deck for a Ritual unit called the Dragheart Circle and shuffle the deck. That's it. That's literally it. It's such a simplistic skill, but it's such a strong skill because for 1 counter blast and a G flip, you get an immediate search of the whole deck for any ritual names. And as long as you play enough ritual names, even at just one-offs, you will guarantee to get some pretty good results. So I'll show you later what are these ritual names you can play. And then of course the fact that it flips over a card G-Zone, it just generally just says gives your Vanguard, gives your front row +5 scaling, which it's a pretty horrifying skill to print on anything. Again, this card is deceptively simple but deceptively good. It's gotten to the point that some Luard players play exclusively just Drag Driver as their stride and then just use Drag Strider as flip fodder. I don't agree with that philosophy, but I can definitely see why you want to do that. So again, it's completely up to you. Drag Strider Luard is really cool. He's your finisher, but technically you can call this your finisher. I guess it depends on who you want to talk to. Drag Strider Luard is Ritual 7. That means you have 7 grade 1s in your drop zone. When his unit attacks, if you have 5 or more units on the board with a Ritual skill, this unit gains 10,000 power +1 critical. Then you can retire 2 of your own rear guards, choose a Luard grade 3 card from your hand and discard it. And this unit gets drive +1 and your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from their hand to the Guardian Circle. So again, really awesome. The Awakened Dragon Emperor really is a big bang finisher for GB2. Again, he's quite hard to set up because he needs 5 ritual names, Ritual 7 and a Luard in hand. But that actually isn't too hard if you just play out the game to its natural progression. But about 80% of the time, you are just going to be on Drag Driver Luard, and I think that's completely fine. Drag Strider really is like the most anime-esque card ever. Like, you can build towards Drag Strider spam, like spamming this guy over and over with 4 Samias. I think that's still possible, but I'm not a fan of that because that's just way too high roll. Like, if you want to play a high roll OTK burst deck, there's at least 3 other people in this format that can do that better, right? You can at least play Estacion, you can at least play Blankmire. You don't need to wait 6 turns to do it, but I mean, if you want to, you can as well. And moving on to our grade 3s. Our grade 3s are very simple. So for our grade 3s, we play 1 Luard in the right deck, 1 Luard in the main deck, and then 1 copy of Solemn Cloud's Dragon. Luard in the right deck, obviously, this is the right target, lol. We play 1 more Luard in the main deck just because we need that grade 3 Luard to discard. I know what a lot of you thinking, Ames, how the hell am I going to add this to hand? Well, that problem is solved with a friend down on line, which is going to be Abyssal Owl. So I'm not too concerned about it. Some people even play Dialin in their decks to fish it out. Dialin is from DBT08. I featured him in my Majesty Lord Blaster video, so I will put that video link in the description for that Majesty Lord Blaster video. Wow, that video has really aged poorly. That video has given rise to what? Order call Dialin spam. My god, I was ahead of my time back in 2022. I need to assassinate myself in 2022. But other than that, you can do that. I think that's fine. I know people use Dialin in Luard to loop even perfect guards to stall. I just don't like that gameplay. But you definitely can do it. Okay, it's not wrong. It's just I'm not a fan of it. And then of course the last one, Solemn Cloud's Dragon. Solemn Cloud's Dragon. As simple as that. It's just Ritual 3, this guy gains 10k, and when discarded for the cost of strike, you draw 1. Again, you only play 1 copy because you're never discarding him for strike. This isn't Nightrose. But you can just use this as a 23k beater free of Drag Driver Luard. In fact, this is the easiest target for Drag Driver Luard. You only need 1 off in circulation. Trust me. You can play more than 1, but most Luard players just only play that 1. Moving on to our grade 2s, and this is the lineup you've already seen from the thumbnail. We are playing 1 copy of Liafol in the right deck, for the main, 3 Professor, 4 copies of Dara, and then 2 Maple. So this is probably the reason why you clicked on this video, and I'm going to explain it to you very quickly, because despite this being the most interesting part of this video, actually, it's actually the most straightforward, right? Maple, I already mentioned earlier, is just to ensure your Dragheart Luard's cost is always very easy. The same way for Liafol. Oh, don't forget, Liafol actually can help you hit a number of names for Drag Strider. Yeah, because he's a ritual unit, so don't actually forget it. I know some people who slip that off their minds. If you are missing a ritual name, you need a 5th guy, call this guy. He's pretty good. But Maple is not a ritual name, so you can just retire her. Go ahead. In terms of ritual names, Professor. Honestly, Professor is such a good card. I'd love to play at 4, but it's just a lack of space. Her skill in the drop zone, she gets grade -1, so she counts as a grade 1. So despite this deck having not that many grade 1s for this version, Professor covers the gap. So again, no worries whatsoever. And Ritual 3, when this unit attacks, if you have the Luard Crest, this unit gains 5,000 power. And then, you know, if you have 2 or more cards face up in the G zone, +1, search your deck for a different card, a different name as this unit, but also a ritual user, call it to the rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. So this is like your multi-attack later on in the game. You can't actually use this too early because it needs to have 2 or more cards face up in the G zone, but it's insane. This is basically your turn 4 hard carry because it just enables you an additional Drag Driver use on the rear guard, which is quite insane. But again, because she is relatively slow, we only play at 3. Even though she is a great 15k beater early on, and the Dragon Empire player in me is telling you to play 4, I'm telling you you can play less than that. It's completely fine. And then of course, the crux of this deck, in my most honest opinion, for the main for Dara. They both serve the exact same purpose on paper, which is use CB1 to game 1 on turn 2, and it ensures that if you never get to ride up to Dragheart Luard, you can force your opponent to play the most bloody games on earth. But that is of course in a very different landscape, because that only works when you're in the strike deck set meta, which is not yet, right? But generally speaking, I'm hugely in love with this core because it just has so many ways to grade 2 game, even without Cellgaon. If this deck gets Cellgaon back, it will be a completely different list. But without Cellgaon, this is the list I'm going with. Dara is the better grade 2 gamer. I don't have to explain why. When this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if you're a Shadow Paladin, you are. Blast 1, look at the top 5 cards in your deck, choose a Shadow Paladin or an undercover card from among them and add them to your hand. Again, she is not a Shadow Paladin, but she is an undercover. And you have one more undercover member that I've kidnapped from Modalion. That is of course Tigris. So you will have enough names to actually search it out. And because this is a Shadow Paladin deck, surprise, I'm sorry if I spoil you on that, yeah, you can search it out, right? And when you search Shadow Paladin names, you can even search out the main. The main is one of the quintessential Shadow Paladins of all time, but a lot of people would call her involvement in this list pretty controversial. That's because, unlike in PBO, which, you know, I just did that video actually, she's really small. She's only a 5k body, so why am I even playing her? Is because when placed on the rearguard circles, you Blast 1, move 1 card from your hand to the soul and draw 2 cards. The whole idea is very simple. You get soul off this, which is very important for our replacement for Cellgaon, which is obviously Painkiller Angel. So this is again a huge plus for us. 2 is also that she just helps you draw through the deck, right? So with a combination of Dara, who also has a skill that when he battles a great tree of greater opponent, you can Soul Blast 1 and this unit gains 10,000 power. It scales in both directions. You can play this insanely strong in the early game, and in the later game, you still have a pretty good attacker in Dara, right? You can just not use the main when you don't want to. Again, it really counts how you mulligan, how you shuffle, how you play your early turns, because technically speaking, you don't want to use up all your CP if you're playing a normal Luard game, because then you just cannot play the rest of the game. So actually, while I'm playing 4 of them, you need to use them in a limited manner. You need to know when to use them and when not to use them, and then the usage becomes effective, in my opinion. But if you just spam all the grade 2 gamers and you're only playing grade 2 game, then that's completely fine. If not, I would tell you to just be careful about it, because if you run out of CB, you just lose, right? We have a counter charge in this deck, but it is pretty limited, and you cannot be gambling on heals your whole life. You are not Castle. You are not the best reward. Moving on to our honorable grade 1s, and the whole point of Luard is to play grade 1s, am I right? Our grade 1s, we obviously have one Knees, surprise. We play 4 Perfect Guards. We're playing Shadow Perfect Guards at 4 because we are playing Dara, so we can search it out. But if you want to play Sanctitude, I mean, you can go ahead, right? I think it's perfectly fine. I just want to increase the chances of me hitting Dara. We play 4 Painkiller. Because Painkiller is just an easy draw. 4 copies of this is Abyssal Owl, because this is your searcher for Luard, and it also gives you a counter charge when you have 2 copies of it in the grave. So generally speaking, if you have 4 Abyssal Owl, you get 2 counter charge per total game, which is nice. 3 Samias. Samias is your emergency board builder for Ritual. It retires the card called at the end of the turn, but frankly that doesn't matter, because in your battle phase you will retire quite a fair bit. So just play this the same way you used to play PBO in DBT02, you're completely fine. You can play 4 Samias. I've seen people play 4 Samias, but I just don't think there's enough space. 2 Tigris. Tigris is your undercover companion for Dara, and this unit, any about this unit boosts EB2, bounce it back to your hand, and when placed on the Guardian Circle, you can tuck an undercover from your drop zone back to the deck, and this unit gains 5000 shield. So the same way your Crest tucks back all of your critical triggers to ensure you can sack your opponent to high hell, and Luard sends your Shadow Paladin units back to the deck so you can play the game. Undercover gets its very own mechanism to return back to the deck, which is another reason why I love this version so much, is that all 3 sides of this deck can reuse themselves independently, right? So you don't actually have to think and go, who do I send back? Everyone has their own way of going back home, so I really love this version. People have played up to 3 or 4 copies of Tigris. I think that's completely fine. I'm just struggling with space. Why? Because I played 2 more techs. One is Paralysis. Paralysis is basically a perfect guard in the rear guard circle if your opponent is playing a 5 or more attack deck, which tends to be pretty common. But then again, if you're playing against a matchup that has spot removal, this card is completely worthless. So again, you just use this for like what, your Estacion matchup. You use this for your El Crudibra, I don't freaking know. And then 1 more copy of Luminosity Wizard as our final one-off. Luminosity Wizard is your last ritual name who is an 18k beater, and when retired can soul charge 1 and give your Vanguard 5k. So generally speaking, Luminosity is just a free way to get numbers pretty easily. I know a lot of people actually swear by Luminosity quite a fair bit. I actually don't, because he's just numbers on a stick. But like I don't play down the fact that he's actually pretty good when he pops off, so I'm okay with just playing 1. But there will be people that tell you to play more than 1, and that's completely fine. Last but not least, our grade 0s for this deck. I want to say there's a lot of grade 0s, but I just realized, obviously, right? Our grade 0s for this deck is pretty easy. Our grade 0s, we have 1, Drag Prince Root. He's still here, so hello Root, hope you're doing well. We play 1 Nyx as an overtrigger. The Luard overtrigger frankly does not matter at this point. I'm gonna be honest, you're gonna win no matter what. But I'm playing Nyx just because it's a free heal, and Luard generally likes the stall matchup. So Nyx also works because I play a lot of grade 2 gamers which use a lot of counter blast. So this technically is my 5th counter charge, but don't quote me on that. We play 8 crits, 3 fronts because we are aggressive, and 4 regular heals. We don't need any effect triggers in these lineups because, okay, besides the front, I mean for the crit heals, you don't really need effect triggers in this lineup because your shield value generally is pretty healthy for the early game, and for the later game, you're just relying on the sheer advantage you've gotten off Crest to be able to survive. You generally don't need to worry about that. And yes, that will wrap up this list for my Luard deck profile in 2025. How do I feel about this deck? Like I said in the beginning, like I'm gonna say again, I really believe Luard is actually pretty good now, which comes as a shock to most people because most people have either completely forgotten he exists in this format or that he's even playable, right? Cellgaon recently got removed from Reziel, so Reziel has to learn to crawl on the ground with us. And frankly, I don't think I'm crawling on the ground anymore. I, in all opinion, really believe that Luard players will always find a way to exist in society. I really believe Luard players will always find new and innovative lists to build it. And I won't be surprised if literally tomorrow some guy comes out and says, I have a new Luard list. I won't be surprised at all. But I just wanted to throw my head in this ever-evolving ring once and for all, because, you know, this is a deck that has a huge footprint on Vanguard's history, right? So I would feel a great disservice if I never got a chance to talk about it. And I do think right now it's a pretty fun deck, especially for my version, which plays these grade 2 gamers. It covers a lot of Luard's poorer matchups, like other strike deck sets going first. You know, it really does help to a great degree. And that's honestly the reason why I felt comfortable enough to talk about this deck. In the future, if Cellgaon gets unbanned, I think all Luard versions will change. I genuinely believe that if Cellgaon does come back to Luard, you know, everyone is just going to start reworking the entire list again, because even Cellgaon at 1 would fundamentally rework this entire deck to the core, right? You would either swap it to Order Core, or you would take out a lot of the grade 1 gamers you don't need anymore and just let Cellgaon hard benefit of advantage virtually infinitely, because that's what Cellgaon used to do. But other than that, yeah, I think honestly the future looks up for Luard. If not for this Cellgaon hit, I honestly think that in at least DBT09, we are going to get some pretty good support, because, you know, it is an encounter set. So I'm honestly not too worried about Luard. I know this format is getting more and more ways to guard against G units, you know, the DBT05 generics, the DBT09, sorry, the DBT07. Is it 7? Yeah, the DBT07 generics. Generally, there are more and more cards being printed that says if your opponent has a G zone, which is a huge turn-off for strike deck sets in general. But I think as strike deck set players, instead of focusing on, wow, my matchups are getting poorer and poorer, I want to quit Chrono Jet, we should be saying, wow, how can we counter this? Because actually, I do believe that for most strike deck sets, not you darling, a lot of us still have a pretty good future. Right, so I think it's pretty alright. Luard doesn't have auto-lose matchups to Blankmire or Buff Sagra, in my opinion. It doesn't have an auto-lose matchup to Levi Dras or even Estacio. So I still think it's definitely worth looking into. And if this video has piqued your interest enough, I recommend to just build your deck and give it a shot. See what you like, see what you feel. And I think that's really the best way to really talk about it. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.